Thank
Thank
you
you
very
again.
much for inviting me and for your kind comments about my case, which of course came to a conclusion some 12 days ago, where I was declared to have been wrongfully dismissed and indeed to have been dismissed because of my anti-Zionist views, which henceforth in British law are protected under the Equality Act. So and that's a principle which is there for everyone in the UK to defend themselves should they be attacked by their employer for their anti-Zionism or their pro-Palestinian activities. I guess the thing I would say, look, in adding to the already extraordinary comments of the various people who've spoken about the situation in Gaza and Palestine, and of course the terrible collaboration that there is with the genocide by Western governments and indeed by Arab states too. I mean, the thing I would want to talk about and focus on is some of the research that I've been doing for a show which I produce and I'm the resident expert on, called Palestine Declassified, TV show you can see every week on Press TV. And in particular, I'd want to focus on not just the complicity of the UK and the US government in particular, which we know about, and of course the spy flights that the British have been sending over Gaza, the Israeli military who are being currently trained in the UK. Of course, the US complicity is much, much greater than that as well. But also, I would like to point to the complicity of the Zionist movement more generally, and I mean in particular the Zionist movement outside occupied Palestine. The Zionist movement, as some of us will know, is organized in such a way that it has a structured presence in around 35 nations around the world, including significant presence in the UK and of course in the US. The biggest Zionist movement outside Israel is in the US. And some of the things we've been doing recently on the show have involved examining the way in which there are charities operating, yes, in the US, but also in the UK, which are sending money directly to the IDF. So there are, for example, there's one called Beit Halochem, and there's another one called the UK Friends of the Association for the Wellbeing of Israel Soldiers. And they are sending significant sums of cash every year to build, for example, swimming pools in the Nakab Desert, which the Zionists call the Negev. So at the same time as there are children in Gaza who have got no water to drink, there are members of the so-called Israeli Defense Forces sunning themselves and swimming in a swimming pool, which has been donated by British Zionists. And now they do this under the charity legislation of the UK, where a charity is supposed to show public benefit, which means that it should be doing good, and that if it does any harm, that the good should outweigh the harm. The Charity Commission is still investigating this particular charity, that's the UK AWES, the Association for the Wellbeing of Israel Soldiers. But it seems to me quite clear that that calculation is way off the scale in terms of harms which are being caused by this particular charity. Now, this charity, of course, is funded by a range of other charities in the UK. One of the things we've been doing is looking at the different charities involved in the research we've done has come up with something like 30 or 35 different charities involved in directly funding this charity, which then funds the IDF. I would give you just some examples, since we've not got a lot of time. One of the examples refers to a family called the Levy family, who have been funding this charity quite significantly, have appeared in occupied Palestine at the openings of mobile synagogues or leisure areas, which their money is paid for. And they've paid for this in the name of their children. One of their children, Avi, at the age of 18, joined the Israel Defense Forces. This is a British citizen who currently is participating, it would seem, in the genocide in Gaza. Now, there are many, many more British citizens doing that, as there are US, Brazilian, South African, and other citizens, possibly even Irish citizens. Richard, I look at you in relation to that. And this is a real issue which we need to deal with. And there certainly are cases in South Africa, in Belgium, and nascent cases in the UK to deal with that. That's one example. The other examples I wanted to give you are of quite prominent Zionist families. So the most prominent one, I guess, is the Wolfson family. awarded the last hereditary peerage in the UK in 1962. The son of the person who got that hereditary peerage, David Wilson, became a lord, of course, and was Margaret Thatcher's director of policy in the mid 1980s. They currently are involved in they run the retail chain Next PLC, which is on every high street in the UK. And that's a family which has been engaged over multiple years in sending tens of thousands and millions of pounds actually to the occupation of Palestine, at the same time as being better known for their philanthropy. Wolfson College, Cambridge is named after them. Wolfson College, Oxford is named after them. But nevertheless, they have been engaged over multi-generations in effectively funding genocide in Palestine, and this has got to stop. Another example I would give you, and I'll stop at the end of this example, is the example of Rontech, a company which no one will ever have heard of, which runs 256 service stations, Esso and BP service stations, up and down the length of England and Wales, for some reason not in Scotland. And this is run by a guy called Gerald Ronson, who, of course, is the convicted Guinness fraudster, who also runs an organization called the Community Security Trust, one of the key organizations involved in the witch hunt against Jeremy Corbyn. And of course, in my own case, was the organization which first took a complaint against me in 2019. Its most recent report on anti-Semitism, on the skyrocketing anti-Semitism happening in the UK, was issued just the other day. And of course, amongst the statistics on anti-Semitism, it includes multiple instances of people chanting "Free Palestine," as if that had anything to do with racism against the Jews. So you can see that in this process, there is I would say, there's a network of Zionist organizations in each country where there is an organized presence of the Zionist movement, and it's engaged on a daily basis in trying to support genocide in Palestine. And that ought to be part of the target of the Palestine Solidarity Movement, in addition to focusing directly on occupied Palestine.